And so that's what it looks like, I think, also to use that privilege, what it means to show up and actually put that into action. It's like, where can I use my voice where others can't?
Hey, Michelle.
Hi, Julia.
How are you?
I'm doing well today. How are you?
I'm good. Guess what?
What? Every time you say guess what, I want to say chicken butt.
Chicken butt is great. I'm so excited. We're past the NFL draft.
Yes.
The draft means slowly somewhere later this year, all things great, the NFL season will start. It's going to be an exciting season. It's coming. I like watching, the kids with their families. That's one of the joys I get from everything that, despite like the background of who's getting drafted. I just love seeing the family. I actually do like seeing the kids' style.
Yeah.
I love this year where they did the hat in the mirror and they were getting ready for the on the stage. I just loved all that. I thought that was a lot of fun. And so I'm excited about that. I'm excited about F1. F1 is still, between my Sundays are like golf, F1, and like reading about football stuff. So it is so happy. Yeah. So great. But here's the thing too. I have a summer bucket list, and my summer bucket list is to actually not like list of 40 things. It's just like once a week, do something kind of like an artist date, Julia Cameron, go to like a museum, something cultural, try a local small business, like a coffee, a dessert, doesn't have to be a dinner or anything like that. And actually just kind of go look at water. Because, around here, like in DC area, you can go look at water and just sit there and read. So my summer bucket list is not like to do all the things. It is literally just to do a few simple things. Instead of like, I'm seeing everybody now, my summer bucket list is like 40 items, 50 items. I'm like, no, I just got, 2 or 3. Wow. What about you? Have you thought about a summer bucket list?
No, I'm not a bucket list person. I just take it as it comes.
Okay, good. But that's the name of it. It's not like bucket list like the movie. It is just like, instead of just saying the summer list, people say summer bucket list.
I don't have a summer list. I don't have any seasonal lists. I just take it as it comes. So
takes it as it comes.
Yeah. This summer I'll be moving my daughter and her husband to Austin. They've been relocated down there. So we're doing that in July. I've got some travel in June, going to Michigan in August to get away from the Texas heat, and then also a wedding in Wisconsin. So, nice. I suppose there's not really a list there, but just looking forward to some good things.
When you go to Michigan and get away from the heat, Leelanau Island, they have really great wines.
Yeah.
Really great wines.
Yes, yeah. We'll be near Petoskey and So I'm excited about that.
All those Great Lakes, right?
Yes. We're going to drive from... we'll be kind of outside of Traverse City, so we're going to drive north up over the what do they call it, the peninsula, whatever, over the Mackinac Bridge, and then come back down into Wisconsin that way. So I'm really excited about that.
Okay, road trip, music or books?
Are you music?
Music.
I can't read in the car. No.
Can you listen to audiobooks, or can you listen to a book being read while you're doing a drive like that, or it needs to be music?
Well, we'll be together. So I don't, we're chatting and talking and such. So music for sure. Music.
Okay. Cause I love a good road trip. So I'm usually the driver determines what you have to listen to, or if you don't.
That doesn't exactly happen in our family because Dennis is driving and I'm determining.
I'm always like, nope, I am driving. So if I'm driving, if it might be a podcast, it might be a humor podcast, it might be a true crime something.
We do podcasts,
but if I want to hear an audiobook or something like that, I am like literally, and I always say this before a road trip, if I'm driving, the driver determines what we got to listen to, right? And sometimes that means I might have to, with my husband, I might have to put like earbuds in because he is a political junkie and like I don't want to hear it. So I'm like riding in the car with speakers over my head, but he's the driver. He's driving. So because he's like, this is your rule. Like, you made the rule. And now I'm like, okay.
We did a couple of years ago. When we did a road trip. Well, it wasn't really a road. We were just driving to University of Arkansas, but it's like 5 hours away. Yeah. We both picked like classic albums to listen to that the other hadn't heard.
Oh.
And so it was like I did, I'm a big Bowie girl. So I did like Space Odyssey. And he's like, oh my God, this is so cool. And then I don't even remember what he did. Like, we did back and forth and 5 hours. And back in the day, these are old albums. So, you
Very
can
long.
kind of listen to the whole thing. Yes.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
it was that was really educational and fun.
That's a great concept. Okay. I'll add that an album. Like I'll add that. So I'll add that to my asterisk summer list. It's like road trip.
And maybe Donald would like that too. It's like, hey, let me play something for you that I grew up with that I really liked, and then you play something for me that you really, kind of.
He makes really great playlists, so I don't have to worry about the playlist. But sometimes I'm just like, I want to listen to like the entire album, but I don't like it. I don't like it on rotation where it's shuffle. I don't like shuffle. I kind of wanted to play the whole way through. So I'll add that. So.
Well, like back when they were made to, and you would sit down and open it up, and get the liner notes and learn all the words. And yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Fun.
Okay. Becky Mollenkamp is a feminist business coach who helps mission-driven entrepreneurs make the leap from small business owner to badass CEO without losing sight of their commitment to equity, which means the CEO doesn't have to be a bad word. That's just our collective corporate trauma speaking. Becky, that's a word, honey. That's a word.
Yeah. Thank you.
Welcome to Just Getting Better.
My work. Thanks for having me on. I love my work, and I'm excited to talk to you all. Your website is fantastic, FYI.
Thank you. We have a lot of people behind the scenes, as you know, who's building it all up for us and helping.
Well, I love what you're doing. I'm excited to be part of it.
So, Becky, you are a feminist business coach. For our listeners and our viewers, can you explain what that is and how it benefits women to have a coach where feminism is at its core?
Yes, I can. And thank you. I love my work because it is grounded in intersectional feminism. Everything I do with my business coaching is rooted in that. And that may be, people might sort of think, what does that really mean? And feminism is not a synonym for women as Google thinks it is. It actually is a set of beliefs that intersectional feminism is even more specific around what that means. It's not just about, equal rights for women, but intersectional feminism means that we are actually exploring all of the marginalizations that we face. And for many of us, that's multiple marginalizations. I'm a woman. I'm also queer. Those are multiple marginalizations that I face, and there's many others that we can have. And so my work then as a business coach is helping my clients, who are all folks with marginalized identities, some have multiple marginalized identities, helping them understand what it means to run a business when you aren't just a straight cishet white able-bodied man, which is what capitalism is designed to make those folks, because capitalism is all about hierarchy, right? It's about the pyramid with those guys at the top and all of the rest of us going down the pyramid, depending on how many marginalized identities we have. But all of us who are not up at that top of that pyramid are running our businesses based on the rules that they've set for what business is supposed to look like. And I'm here to say, and I work with my clients to say, those rules weren't meant for us. And if we follow them, we're not going to get the results they say we will because they weren't meant for us. So what does it look like for us to run business in a way that honors ourselves, our full humanity? Because our full humanity is not honored inside of traditional capitalism. So what does it look like for us to honor our full humanity as we run a business? And that changes things a lot, because it means that we are honoring things like, specifically, if we're talking about women, we have cycles, right, of hormonal differences that happen that affect how we show up, how we feel about working. And instead of us trying to force ourselves into this box that says we have to show up every day from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and be productive, every day of the month, every weekday of the month, what does it look like for us to say, you know what? There are certain weeks of the month I am high energy. I'm feeling great. I'm feeling productive. I'm feeling creative. There are other months where I have almost nothing left to, other weeks I have almost nothing left to give. So how do we rearrange the way we work to honor that, right? That's just one example of what it can look like, but it's a very different way of approaching business when we say, I'm putting the human first and the money second. It doesn't mean we aren't making money, because my clients are making money. Most of them are running 7-8 figure businesses, but they are doing it in a way that prioritizes their needs first and the profits second. And that is not what it looks like. Anyone who's worked in corporate America knows that's not what it looks like in traditional patriarchal white supremacist kind of systems.
Wow. That sounds very soothing, actually, to me right now. Yeah. Thank you.
Right?
Thank you.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Yes. Yeah. So, Becky, on your website, you have a list of people that you give credit to as your educators. It's a great list. Many of those people we share. I've read many of the same books that you have, and it's very impressive. One of the ones that you include is Rachel Cargill on your list. And we both know that Rachel is one of many Black women who have raised awareness in the racist history of feminism in the United States. So we see today that many white women are still choosing their race over their gender. And so your feminist agenda claims that if it isn't intersectional, then it isn't feminism. So I have a couple of questions for you about this. How are you addressing the historical and existing racism that's in feminism? And then what do you say to white feminists who continue to perpetuate this?
Yeah. If we know anything.
Big question. Sorry.
It's a lot, right? But it's okay. If the last election taught us anything, it's that women,
yes.
right? That white women are going to vote for, they're going to honor and protect the whiteness, the privilege that their whiteness buys them over, even if it's at the cost of what it, of what it may cost them as women, right? This idea of people voting against
frustration. Yes.
Right? This idea of voting against our self-interest. Yeah. And yes and no, right? Because it also means it's white women have this proximity to power. They're that next rung down as we think about that hierarchy, right? And it's like, I would rather protect my proximity to that power, which I have through whiteness, right? That's what I share with those men. So if I protect that, then they're going to protect me. And this is so much of this is unconscious, subconscious sort of thinking, right? Most white women aren't going to the ballot thinking that, but it is the waters that we swim in. It's what we are indoctrinated into. And so it's how we show up. So, my work is really about listening to Black women first above all, because they have that unique experience of having this overlapping identity where they are both marginalized along race lines and then also around sex and gender lines. And I think specifically, the more of those marginalizations that you have, the more you can understand the ways that those marginalized identities overlap and help us see the ways that protecting one piece of that is not protecting women. So I don't think those women are feminists. Many of them will claim they are, though. And that is why Rachel Cargill will say, my favorite quote from Rachel is, did you manifest it or was it white privilege, right? Because it's like there's all these white women who show up in the girl bossy space telling you just to manifest it and look at my beautiful life. And meanwhile, they're not acknowledging the fact that their skin buys them an incredible amount of privilege that also contributed to how they had, and they have generational wealth often. Even if they don't think they do, there is this the fact that their parents were able to buy a home, right? And they weren't having to face redlining and things that we just, as white folks, don't always have experience around. And so I think it's really important for us to learn from and listen to those who have the most marginalized identities because they know. Right? They've experienced, they understand the ways these things overlap to say that power is about more than just being a man. Right? There's whiteness also plays, but then also so does ableism, right? If you have an able-bodied and if you're neurotypical, and so does your gender expression, and so does your sexuality, and all of these things are at play. And the folks who have the most experience of those multiple identities understand that. And so I started a long time ago, my journey. I was as bad as any white feminist, any of those ladies. I was reading only the likes of Brene Brown and Robin DiAngelo, or is that her name? I think so. The one who wrote the Right Fragility.
Yeah.
Thinking I was one of the good ones, right? And it took me finally, in fact, what started my journey was Michael Brown was murdered about a half a mile from my doorstep in Ferguson. So in 2014 was what really started my own journey from being sort of a good white feminist to understanding how that really isn't feminism. Because if we're not free until we're all free, right? And so unfortunately, a lot of white women, our feminism looks like, how do I get free? And that's all that matters. And, Black women especially know it's not good enough, right? We're not free until we're all free. And that really, it's embarrassing in a way to say it took me until 2014 and into my 30s to really understand that. But I just like so many white women, I thought, I only vote for Democrats and I think love is love. And I think, I'm colorblind, all of these things. And so I thought, I'm exempt from needing to learn. And that really opened my eyes and set me down this journey. And so for me, it's like, who are you learning from? And whose voices are you elevating? You know, if you look at my podcast, if you look at the work I'm doing now, like I am making sure that I am elevating the voices of folks with marginalized identities. First and foremost, I run a podcast collective, and we are all about, like, our podcast collective is 50% queer. It's like 35% BIPOC. It's like, you know, most of us have some sort of neurodivergence or disability. I'm really trying to say the spaces that I'm creating, or the places where I have privilege and power, I'm trying to use that to elevate the voices of those who have less, right? So I think that's what it looks like. And what do I say to white feminists? Like, what I would say is a white feminist, these women who are prioritizing their skin color over everything else, listen and learn. And it is hard. And that starts with dropping the defenses. And I know from experience how hard this is, because when you see yourself as one of the quote unquote good ones, when anyone challenges you on that, pushes back, you want to go in defensive mode and say, oh, you don't understand. No, that's not me. I'm not like them. I'm different. Right. We want to make ourselves the exception. And we can't change until we stop that, until we actually stop and get quiet and drop the defenses and listen and learn and take it in, including the places where we've made mistakes, you know, including the places we're not quite yet cutting it. And so start listening and learning from Black women. Don't read Robin DiAngelo's book. There are many, many amazing books on the same topic written by Black women. I always recommend to people to read White Feminism by Koa Beck, because it speaks specifically to this issue. If you're not sure if your feminism or your way of showing up is this sort of unhelpful white version of feminism, that book's really great at helping you start to see it. And then just know, like, there's no finish line. And that is the hardest, I think, for many of us to grapple with, because we are achievers in America, like, and as white folks, we're very, like, you know, accustomed to learning that we can win at things. And we, like, women often want to win the feminism game, the, like, intersectional feminism game, where we want to, like, show, I've done it. Now I'm done. Like, I did it. I'm good. I know everything now. Like, I can never mess up again. Nope. I know that I will be learning and making mistakes until the day I die. And you have to be willing to accept that and know, yeah, you're still going to get called in. You're still going to screw up. It's still going to hurt. You're still going to have to, like, learn and unlearn forever. But that's okay. That's what being human's about. That's about growth and evolution. So, you know, I think it's hard because it is a lot easier to just sort of stay in your little bubble where you believe you're really great, you're not doing anything wrong, and everyone should just like you. That's easier. I get it. But is that really how you want to show up in the world, right? Is that leading to the change we all say we want to see in the world? And I don't think it is.
No. Yeah, I don't think, as white people, white women, we're not always uncomfortable being uncomfortable. And that's, you know, we really, as cliche as that sounds, it's really, you know, you have to find.
Most of us are very uncomfortable.
Find a way to sit in that space. Yeah.
And you have to learn to have discomfort. And that's hard. It is hard.
And I come from a family of, like, amazing women, and Alice Walker's In Search of Her Mother's Gardens was literally, like, reading as a young person, right? Before college and when it came out and everything like that. But when you started on this journey in 2014, how did people close to you react? Like, when you're like, I want to hear this story, a part of this, because that is a big change to say, like, you know, hey, it's me. Hey, it's me. I'm the problem, but I'm going to change it. Not that I'm just like, oh, ignore it. I am going to sit with my discomfort at a time when everybody, and even now, everybody has an opinion, which is fine. And that's great. But it's so visceral. And at that time that was happening in 2014, we didn't have necessarily all these books that we have now, where you can go and find. And there was, I don't think in 2024, as many people like yourself making these lists, like having these authors and promoting these authors' works. How were the people that's closest to you in that area, in that town that was happening in Ferguson at that time? And even now, how are they reacting to what you do?
Yeah, you're right. I think 2020 is really where, for a lot of folks, that changed, and we had this giant groundswell of people engaging in this way.
That we have now? Okay. Sorry.
You mean all the black boxes on Instagram? Yeah, of course. Yes, I remember. But I do think that is where people, these conversations were probably happening more, and it was before that, but it's not to say that there wasn't plenty of stuff. I mean, Bell Hooks, who's my personal hero, is like, I mean, she was still alive, I think, then. I'm trying to remember when she died, but I believe she was still alive in 2014. And still, you know, and Angela Davis wrote specifically about Ferguson. I mean, there were plenty of folks, again, though, there weren't as many white people trying to profit off of all of that then. But there were plenty of folks to be reading then. And so there was no shortage for me of people to learn from. But growing up in St. Louis, Missouri, Missouri is a deeply red state, although interestingly, it wasn't always. It was more of a purple state. We've had Democrats. We've had Claire McCaskill. We've had Carnahan, who was our governor. Like, we've had Democrats, but they were more of those sort of blue collar Democrats. And what's happened over time now is like Democrats have become seen as more of these elitists, and somehow Republicans have become seen more as these like, working folks, which is interesting because I don't think they actually represent those values. But generally, St. Louis, I mean, Missouri it was a slave state, right? We are, even though I don't think people always think of Missouri as the South, it is sort of the South. And there was a lot of stuff that happened in the state that we still talk about that, around these issues. And St. Louis is very segregated. I grew up here. I lived away for a long time, but I moved back. It's deeply segregated. It is a place where people ask you the question. You meet anyone from St. Louis, they're going to say, where'd you go to high school? And that is because they can tell almost everything about you from that question. They knew how much money you had, what your exposure is, like probably what your politics are, what your beliefs are about race and these sorts of things, because it is so segregated. And so I grew up in that environment where my mom, was very, very progressive. And I learned to be progressive in the ways that, again, were not so helpful. Going through that journey has been interesting because, my mom tries and she's trying to learn. She's much older. She's trying to learn more, but there's been resistance to some of the things where her defenses come up, and she's trying to understand and trying to learn. Specifically, I think for people of her age, some of that can be around trans issues. That's challenging because it's something that maybe they haven't thought about. And even some of the things I'm talking about, with intersectional feminism, like my mom is one of those people who's not racist, but does that mean she's anti-racist, right? These differences in understanding is the one thing to say, like, sure, I love anybody no matter the color of their skin, but that's different than saying I'm fighting for change here. Like, I'm actively a part of this. But for the most part, like my world's pretty small here. I don't associate with people who don't share my beliefs generally, other than some family. And in those spaces, I refrain from talking about these issues because I find it to just not be useful. But I'm never one to back down. If someone says something, I'm going to stand up for what's right. But for the most part, like, that journey was really personal and internal. And then I think the biggest change was having my son, which happened in 2016. Oh gosh, don't even know how old he is. And that did change me a lot too, because I was already into this journey, and I'm raising him very differently than I was raised, right? He is understanding things in a very different way. We've intentionally moved to the most diverse elementary school in our area because I want him to have a very different experience than I did of being in very segregated spaces where he doesn't have familiarity with folks who look different than him. And his world is so different than mine was. And so I guess I don't know if it's a great answer, Julia, because
no,
it's like,
is. It's your answer. It's not about being great. It's your answer. That's authentic. Yeah. That's what somebody's going to listen to and go, okay, because we all know how, barbecues are coming up. It's still, how do I navigate that? For somebody, what you just said is going to help them through listening to that and later on in all the holidays and all the get-togethers that just happen in life. Right?
Well, what's fun is like seeing my son. He's going to be 9 this month. And so I wear my rainbow pride necklace all the time. Now sort of as this act of like, I want to show up and say, I'm queer, get used to it, right? This like, hey, I'm here. And when it gets hidden under like my shirt or something under the collar, my son is the one who pulls it out and says to me, like, make sure people can see that, Mom. You need people to need to see that. And then if he sees a pride flag, he'll say, look, Mom, that's your flag, right? Like, even though I'm in a hetero presenting relationship because I'm married to a cishet man, I know my truth and my son knows my truth. And now he's the one who's like fearless and just advocating for me. And he won't put up with anything if he hears anyone saying something. So that's the beauty of it, I think, is like getting to watch how things can change through it's like one generation can start to really change things. And that means a lot to me. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, there's a lot of things for people to take away, like Julia said, to learn from your story. And so along those lines, you're very open, you're very honest, courageous, I would say, in your vulnerability, because, in 2025, it's not always easy to be as authentic as you are so publicly, and I find it very inspirational. I want to tell you, for me personally, you've written 2 deeply personal and revealing essays that are out, available for people to read. So where did you find the courage, to put that out there at a time where it's so easy for people to hide behind anonymity, online and stuff, and just hate? And, where does that come from in you? And then how do you take, that authenticity that it seems to me that you value very much. How does that show up in your relationships, mentoring and coaching your work?
Yeah, it's changed everything in my coaching where, a decade ago, I was still buying into so much of what we see, this like Instagram pretty, Instagram perfect persona that so many coaches and just people, especially white ladies, are putting out there of like, look at my beautiful home and everything's great. And I think there's this belief that if I don't show up that way, why would they trust me to help them? Right? Like if I don't have it all together, why would they want to hire me for whatever the thing is I do to help them? And I think it's because that's freaking intimidating. I don't want to hire you if you're perfect and have it all figured out, because you can't, in my mind, you can't possibly understand where I am, right? You're too perfect. And I have found, but I used to participate that way. Like I was trying to do the whole thing and play the game and all of that. When I finally, it was having my son. I had a child late in life. I was 41 when I had my son. So it was represented a massive shift in my life, because I had a lot of time of like, my life is just about me. And it's really hard to like, be like, oh, it was a radical shift. And I remember showing up one day. At the time, it was a Facebook group because I was still doing those. And I was just having a really, really hard day. My son was still a baby and I was getting no sleep and all of that. And I remember showing up and saying, I had just done one of those life circles or life wheels, whatever, where you sort of rate the parts of your life. And I was noticing how low so many of them were since having a child. And I got on a Facebook Live to my community of like 1,000 people or something and was just like crying and like, am I the only one? And like, is there something wrong with me? Like, why is this so much of this so low? And how are you supposed to have a happy friendship, a happy, partnership, a happy, like exercise, eat well, like all these things that this thing is telling me I'm supposed to like be so good in, when I've got this baby that I have to keep alive who doesn't sleep, right? So I cried. I showed up in that really vulnerable way, and it was terrifying, but I was also just like at the end of my rope. It was really, really hard. And instead of what I was afraid might happen, like judgment and, people leaving the group and all of that, I had so many people say, thank you. This is how I feel. God, nobody talks about this. This is so hard. And, we really like you and you're showing up this way. And it just opened my eyes and changed everything for me to realize everyone is going through stuff and we all feel so alone in it. And we just want other people to express it so that we can feel less alone. Because it's the feeling alone in it that creates all the shame. Like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I figure this out? They all seem to have it figured out. And we just need more people who are willing to say, no, I help people. I'm good at what I do. I love what I do. And I don't have it all figured out. And things are really hard for me sometimes. And there are days where I can barely get up and there's days where I'm thrilled, right? Like people need to see the fullness of who we are to be able to relate and to feel less alone. And then that's what builds trust. But it's not easy because it's really scary to talk about things. And the other piece, this does relate to some of what we talked about before, which is like, how am I using my voice? I have, because of my white skin, I have a safety that other folks don't have to talk openly and publicly about like my past with, one of those things I'm sure you're talking about is I've shared about having abortions. One of them as a 17-year-old out of, really just like panic for my life. And I am forever grateful for that healthcare I received so that I could have the life I have now. And another for very much a wanted baby before the son I had because of a miscarriage. And I think it's so important that I use the privilege I have to discuss these issues because there are so many for whom having those discussions could be like a real threat to their safety, right? For me, it's not a threat to my safety. It can be hard. It's scary. It's uncomfortable, but I can have that conversation. I can share those things and no harm's going to come to me because of that. And so that's what it looks like, I think, also to use that privilege, what it means to show up and actually put that into action. It's like, where can I use my voice where others can't? And I can tell you, you're right. In this time, it is scary. It's scarier than it's ever been because there is this like, my safety may not be what I once thought it was. And that is scary. And until I know that it's like an immediate threat to my actual safety, I still have to keep putting myself out there because that's what aligns with my values.
I applaud you for it. Thank you.
I know
Thank you for your authenticity.
That's very hard for a lot of people. And, as a person who walks around in a Black body every day and in the nation's capital for the past,
I was going to say, in DC
right now, oh, Lord, it's just
like we just got rid of Black Lives Matter way.
Let me tell you, coming in, like, in the home is is that safe place, right? I can feel here, I can go, because being out is kind of just, it is also a weightiness. Like if you live here for a long time, you can tell there's, when we honestly had Obama, it was like, oh, it was great. And then you walk around now, it feels like the constant weight, but then you have to find pockets and friendships and community that you need to actually also make you feel safe in whatever place you are at that moment. And I'm very thankful that I have that, because I know sometimes people can think DC is transient. There's a lot of people who are local here, born and raised. It's transient, but it's not as transient as people think. And so just finding that community, and like you say, it is hard. Some days are better than others, and we just keep going on. But I'm curious, like, Michelle and I were big book readers like you. You've learned from so many people. You just talked about bell hooks. You talk about Audre Lorde. You talk about Brene Brown. Who are you learning from now? Like, who are some newer voices, maybe, or newer people that you are following that maybe the community doesn't know about, that we can actually help them find some newer voices? Because I know there's always constant learning, but who are you learning from now?
Well, I'm going to give a shout out to my partner in crime for our podcast called Messy Liberation, Taina Brown. She's a feminist coach. She's a Black woman. She's queer. And she's amazing. The thing is, like, the more you lean into this work and say, like, I want to learn, and like do the hard stuff and show up and say when you've made mistakes and all that, the more that you become a safer, and I don't ever expect that I would be a safe space for a Black woman, but a safer space. And I am being invited into more spaces with women of color, Black women specifically, where I get to be in those rooms and learning firsthand from these women and their lived experiences. And every time it is such a gift. It is such a gift that most of us white women don't get to experience. And when you slowly get to do that, you're like, oh my God, like Taina just, every time we talk, I'm like, oh, and my business partner in I have a lot of spaces. I love community. I'm constantly building community spaces. And one of the changes I've been making is bringing in partners in a lot of my spaces instead of doing things alone. One, because it's lonely doing it alone. And two, because it does allow... Yeah. And it allows for me to, have folks who have more lived experience beyond what I have, so that we can create more rich and meaningful spaces. So Feminist Founders is with Faith Clark. She's a Jamaican woman who's also queer and has children who have autism. She's spectacular. Like, these women aren't people who are writing books that you can go out and find, but they have websites. They have our podcast. You can go and learn from them. And they have, every time I'm with them, I'm just like, oh my God, the ways that they are already so checked out of toxic capitalism, and can call me in on the ways that I am still doing it, despite the amount of learning I've been trying to do, more than a decade of really deep learning. It's so ingrained in me where I'll be like, oh, it's amazing the ways that I'm like, yes. Jordan Maney is another amazing friend of mine who has a podcast called Rest Lab. She is like a joy coach and a rest coach. And it is gorgeous, the work she's doing in the world too. And then the other thing is I'm starting as if I don't have enough. Starting another podcast that's coming out next. Well, I don't know when this will run, but next week, called Assigned Reading.
May. What's the date it's coming out?
It's May 13th. Okay, they'll be 13th. Live, so you can check it out. It's called Assigned Reading. And some of the people all those people I just mentioned are guests on the show, but so are a whole lot of other folks. They pick an essay. Everything that we're reading is publicly available. It's all works by feminists or folks who have been a part of the feminist world. Some of them are things we're critiquing because they are not, like, some of them are turfy feminists, but we're still, and for people who don't know, that's trans radical or trans exclusive radical feminists. So, but we're critiquing,
that's discussing. A new term for me.
Yeah. We're having these deep conversations about works that are really meaningful. If anyone knows Clifton Strengths, I have intellection very high, which means I like to think about big issues. I also have communication high. I like to talk about those big issues.
Michelle.
So, like, I hate small talk.
The friend, like, Michelle will text me an article, and I know it is going to be a gem, like you're saying with this podcast, Assigned Reading. How are we going to look at it from a critical thinking. We always talk about critical thinking. And so when I say that, I know Michelle is that friend, because as a Black woman, sometimes I'll tell her, that's y'all to figure out. I'm not doing that. I'm over here resting. Right. I'm part of the nap ministry. You know, like, I'm like, listen to Black women, we told y'all. And Michelle will be like, okay, but I'm still sending you this. And what I love about the way she does it, and that's why we started the podcast, is because it's thoughtful. It's not one of those, I'm sending you this to read, but whenever you have a moment, just take a look and let's discuss it. Not necessarily here, but just via text, via email, because we're in community, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's what it takes too, right? You have to have that safety built in. So it's people on the show or people that I know that we have these kinds of conversations where they feel comfortable coming on and having these kinds of conversations with me. Because the last thing I want to do, like sort of to what you're saying, is ask a Black woman to come educate me. That's not at all what I'm here to do. It is like, how can we both talk about this and what we each take from it and what it means to our lives now, where it doesn't resonate. And they're not all even feminists. In fact, Zadie Smith, the one I read with Jordan Maney, is called Joy by Zadie Smith. It was such a great essay. Okay. And Zadie says very publicly, speaking to what you were saying earlier, she does not feel like she's a feminist for all the reasons you've mentioned, ways it's excluded Black women historically. And so I fully appreciate that she shows up in that way. But this piece was real. I like that conversation we had was so rich. So I can't wait for people to share that. And like, I'm trying to take in new voices for myself, either including people who've been around a long time that are new to me, newer thinkers. I mean, Zadie's been around for a while now, but still a bit younger. People like Lindy West, who's younger.
Yes, I love Lindy West.
Yeah, her show Shrill's great. We did one of her essays. So yeah, like I just see it as an opportunity for me to continue to learn, because I never want to stop learning. I just think it's so important that we do.
Oh, me too. That would be that. Like, you know, people have different definitions in their own mind.
Can we go and like subscribe now? Like, is it ready to subscribe?
Go subscribe now. It's out there to subscribe. You can subscribe now, and then the first episodes drop next week, and you guys will have to come on and be guests. That'd be great.
Oh, would love that. We love that. Yes. To stop learning to me is like equivalent to death. Like yes.
I always say you're growing, you're stagnating.
Yes, yes. Someone that you have on your list that I personally have learned a lot from, both reading him, listening to him, and then also doing the somatic abolitionist program is Resmaa Menakem. Oh my gosh. I've never met him. I've never spoken to him, but he is.
I'll tell you a brief story. I'll try to keep it short, but I went to a session. I can't remember the name of the organization. I wish I could, because especially the woman who was hosting it, but it was this organization that was hosting Resmaa for a talk. It was part of a whole series they were doing. And we showed up, and Resmaa was there. There were hundreds, maybe even 1,000 people there, because Resmaa is a big name, and especially to people in these communities, and they love him. And we showed up, and he was tired. You could, I can't remember something. I mean, who knows in the news? This was probably 2 years ago or maybe more, but there had been something in the news that was weighing very heavily on him. He'd been doing a lot of speaking. You could just tell he was not there. And they started doing the interview, and the woman, a Black woman who was running it, was asking him a couple questions, and then she stopped everything. There's hundreds, maybe 1,000 people there. And she said to him, Resmaa, are you okay? Are you feeling okay? And he's like, I'm fine. I'm really like, I'm going through all this. I'm feeling really tired. I'm just having a hard time kind of focusing, whatever. And she said, you know what? I'm going to stop this. I'm going to stop this now. We're going to put the way we show up into action here and say, you go rest. The time that we had allotted for this, I want you to go sleep. I want you to go and rest, leave. This is hard for her. I mean, he was their big speaker at this event, right?
Wow.
And he was like at first trying to sort of do the thing we do, which is like, no, I'll push through. She encouraged him, no, go rest. We see you. We know you need it. We love you and we care for you. And this is what collective care looks like. Go rest. Wow. And, you know, people in the room could have been disappointed, but instead we then turned it, she, not we, I had nothing. She turned in this most amazing, rich, beautiful community discussion around rest, around care, what it looks like to put our values into action. She played some beautiful music. It's actually what introduced me to Joy Oladukan, who's got the most I freaking love Joy. Like she played a song from her. It turned into this most memorable, amazing experience that honestly, like Resmaa would have been great. And but I probably remember this more because it was a moment of me saying, that's it. That's what it looks like. And how hard is it to make those choices in those moments when you're like, this is Resmaa. Like, I know for them, that was like, this was a moment. Like if you have a podcast in your life and you got to like, it's hard because you want to just say, let's do it. And for them to display that, I will never forget it. It meant so much. And I was like, that's how I want to show up in the world.
Wow.
It is not easy to do, but that's how I want to show up in the world.
That's incredible.
I know it's a bit of a side, but like it was just
it's incredible.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Like
beautiful moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Gosh, thank you for sharing that. Well, that makes this right turn a bit like abrupt, you know. So I saw recently you were, again, with your authentic vulnerability, sharing on social about your journey as a, middle-aged woman. And Julia and I, both women of a certain age. We talk a lot on this podcast about perimenopause, menopause. Yeah. We've had some great doctors on, gynecologists who've really, books and no books that just have a lot of insight and stuff to share. And you shared that you were experiencing some symptoms that surprised you. So, how is this journey, generally speaking, going for you? What are you learning about it? And how does it, kind of correlate with your feminist beliefs? Because ironically, there is a lot of that shows up in how we discuss this. Yeah.
Well, it sucks. I hate every second of it, and it sucks. That said, like, I do feel like there is beauty in reaching a certain age. I'm 50. I just turned 50 this year. And again, I'm 50 with a 9-year-old. So like, I'm in this weird place that the older I get, the more I understand why people have their kids in their 20s, so that you can go through this perimenopause stage without having to be raising children, because doing both is really, really hard. But I have been having vertigo now for like a week and a half, which can be because of like a major drop in estrogen. And I kind of think I'm at knock on all the wood, I think I'm almost at the end of my cycle part of this, of like continuing to have, continuing to menstruate. I feel like I'm at the end of that, I think. And so I feel like there's just this massive drop of estrogen, which is causing some vertigo. I've had a little vertigo in my life, but this last week has been just really, really hard. I also have been having a lot of like joint pain and just random things where I'm like, and the thing about it, and here's where I think it relates to feminism in a few ways. One is the freedom that I think comes from reaching this age. Like, you run out of F's to give. You're like, I don't care anymore. Like, you can finally start to shed, at least some of us. My mom is 70 something and hasn't been able to get here. But for a lot of us, it's like, I finally am realizing I will never be beautiful by the standard that society has set, again, because beauty, as the world which really means as men define it, is a young, like 20 something, supple skin, tight skin, whatever, all of those things. But there's freedom that finally comes from saying the male gaze, I never wanted to participate in it anyway, but I always did, because I swim in these waters where my self-worth got really caught up in all of that. And now it's like, I can let it go, because it doesn't matter what I do. I mean, I could pull and talk and do all the things, but truly I'll never be able to be what the male gaze defines as beautiful. And to me, there's such freedom in that. It's like, then F it. Why do I even care? If I want to wear sweatpants to the store, I'm wearing sweatpants to the store. I don't care. I put on a pretty lip if I want to put on a lip, but I do it for me and not for anyone else now, right? And that feels really great. So I feel like it's helpful for a lot of women to realize that the male gaze was always junk and never good for us anyway. And this like going through this sort of process of life can kind of help us like unhook from that some. And I think that's really feminist and beautiful. The other thing is when you start to realize just how little the medical industry has studied these issues, knows how to talk about them, cares about them, puts money into it, or anything else, as I'm sure you've discovered through having gynecologists on, where I saw a study recently, it was something like 70% of doctors coming out of school don't feel like they're prepared to talk about perimenopause. Yeah. That is awful and mind-boggling. And but that is, we still, I think they've only recently started to, and probably this will be changing again, but doing crash test dummies that are actually like shaped like an average woman instead of an average man, right? We know that so much of testing that's done in medical industries is on white men, maybe white women. Certainly we know that it's not happening for anyone else, right? And they're not studying these issues because these issues don't really matter, right? Like, who cares? We're going to study erectile dysfunction until nobody can see straight. But perimenopause, which affects every woman, every ovary bearing, woman, as long as she lives long enough, now we don't really care. And then when you go to talk to doctors, often the answer is just kind of like, yeah, that's probably perimenopause. You just kind of have to live with it. Like until recently, really until just the last couple of years, that has been kind of medical advice for most doctors is like, yeah, it sucks. Get used to it. Right now, finally, we're starting to see a lot more conversations happening about HRT and the benefits of that and helping people get over the fears. Like I'm of an age where my mom went on hormone replacement back in the 80s when all of those fears came around breast cancer and the links of estrogen and breast cancer. They told women, absolutely don't do this. The HRT is the worst possible thing. I was terrified of it until only the last couple of years where there's finally these amazing doctors who are talking about it and actually the ways it can help us stave off dementia and things. So like we're starting to see some changes, but it is another area where it's very clear how historically women have been excluded from conversations. Our care hasn't mattered, right? And that like there is some beauty in like realizing that is starting to change and trying to like, again, one more of these reasons why do we need to talk about it? But for this reason, so that there are more voices saying this is real. It's really hard. And we need people to actually really invest in this because I shouldn't have to just suffer. That's not good enough, you know, and that's what it has felt like until recently. And now finally I'm working with a doctor who's helping me in a way that is finally starting to make a difference. Though I did wake up again at 4:30 in the morning, completely drenched in sweat. Like, you know, that's just the way it's going. So there is that. But yeah, it's been quite a journey. I don't recommend it, but the alternative is not something that's much better. So I will get through it. And, you know, I know menopause, I've talked to women who are menopausal, right, on the other side of the perimenopause. For some, it gets better. For some, it doesn't necessarily. So I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think I'm mostly through it, but I'm not enough through it to where I'm to it gets better yet. So
I'm in the thick of it.
Yeah,
I'm in the thick of it.
Yeah, me too. And no fun, is it?
The fan is right here, you know, and then, oh my God, I'm freezing. Oh my God, I'm hot. Oh my God.
Here, for anyone who sees the video, here's my desk fan. Here's my neck fan. I mean, I'm constantly, and then if you want to see my giant thing of pills, because I'm on every supplement you can imagine trying to figure this out. Like, it's real. It's real.
Oh man. Well, and until I think it was like, what was it? The 60s or 70s or so. I don't remember exactly. They did a extensive study on estrogen on using men, like not even using like, oh my gosh, you've got to be kidding.
But it doesn't surprise me. I mean, that's still like women are as likely to be in a car accident as men, maybe a little less likely because we aren't as often as crazy drivers, and yet, like, it's the 2020s and we're still studying on crash test dummies that are like the average man and just not even including women in the conversation. And that's just one of many examples. Every medication. And again, for every place where that shows up for women as an entire group, it's even worse for anyone who is, you know, a Black woman, a Hispanic woman, you know, because any of those marginalizations are definitely not being studied. Like it is, and there are differences in many medications on what that looks like. I mean, we look at maternal health rates for Black women, it is so awful because of all of these racist beliefs that are built into. So sexism and racism are as baked into the medical field as in any other space in our society.
100%. Yeah. Well, you know, not to self-plug, but we do, like I said, we do have a couple of episodes with great gynecologists that have really good information. So I would encourage you if you want to listen to any. Listen to those. They're really good.
I will.
So one of the things that we do with all of our guests and with each other is ask how we're just getting better. So how are you this week? Just getting better. Sorry,
this
Julia.
is like such a bad week to ask because I'm in the throes of vertigo and it's the end of the school year, so my head is spinning. But
some weeks for us are harder than others as well.
I'm going to just not to overplug my own show either, but because assigned reading is starting next week, and honestly, it is the thing that, like, I don't need another podcast. The show really is not in any way in service of building my business necessarily. It's certainly not going to be a moneymaker. I'm already running a bunch of community. I got a lot going on. But I couldn't not do it when I thought of it because it just got me so lit up. And sometimes we just have to do things because they feel so good. And so honestly, like I can't be more excited for people to start listening because it's so good. And I just want to keep having these conversations because it is the thing that right now is like lighting me up. It's helping me. It's feeding all of the stuff that I need to feel like Yeah, even when things are hard, even with the vertigo, even with the kid, even like I'm still learning, I'm still growing, I'm having these rich, beautiful conversations with women I admire. Like that is the stuff of life for me. And so that is like right now, it's the thing that I think is helping me get better or stay better or do better, all of that. So yeah, thank you.
You're preaching to the choir. Yeah, because I think, speaking for myself, that's one of the things I love about this. What Julia and I are just getting better. I learned so much from Julia, but we have so many tremendous women on, and every conversation just feeds me. And my word of the year, I don't know if you're familiar with the story, is Ubuntu, which is it's a ancient Zulu word that Archbishop Desmond Tutu incorporated into his theological teachings, which is it's a word about community. And I am because you are because we are. We all feed into it. So everything about my year this year is focused on community, and you are preaching to me. I love it.
And intersectional feminism to me is exactly that. I am because you are because we are. And that is what it means. It's like none of us is free till all of us is free. That same message. I love that.
And that's how we're all just getting better.
Yeah. And to answer your question, Julia, I am on Blue Sky because I've left Meta products because F suck and I don't want to be in the space. Like when you think about it, Facebook was created to rank women. Gross. Like, why are we there? Anyway, so I'm on Blue Sky and that's probably the best place for people to find me. I'm also on LinkedIn, but you can just go to BeckyMollenkamp.com and all of it's there. So just go to Becky Mollenkamp. You can even spell it wrong and Google figure it out because there's no one else out there named Becky Mollenkamp. So yeah.
Good to have. Oh, Thank you, Becky, so much. Thank you. Yeah. This is amazing talk.
Yeah,
Thank you for having me. This was wonderful. I am so excited to discover you all, and I can't wait to dig into even more of your shows. And I love what you're doing. I love the way you guys show up in the world. And like, this is not a topic everybody wants to talk about, right? And I love that you're willing to do that. And you really were, we went there.
But here's the thing too. We talk also to estheticians, so it's not like we're just always. We talk to different people. We talk about books and wine and life and lipstick and makeup and just all the things because we're complex people, right? We just don't have one thing.
We contain multitudes and we should be able to
look, nobody puts Julia in a corner. It's because nobody puts Michelle in a corner because nobody put baby in a corner. I always say this.
I love it. Yeah. She cannot be pigeonholed. I love that. Well, thank you. And I hope this wasn't too heavy for everyone.
No,
I think it was fun too. So thank you very much. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
You're awesome too. Thank you for feeding our souls and our hearts and our spirits and our minds. Thank you.
Ditto.
Thanks for listening to Just Getting Better with your hosts, Michelle Williams
and Julia Coney.
We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into some important topics impacting women today. To ensure you never miss an episode, click follow or subscribe.
Head over to isjustgettingbetter.com to sign up for our email list, as well as check out all the links and resources in the show notes. And be sure to follow us on social media. If you love the show, will you please help us build our community by sharing it with friends? Until next time,
keep just getting better.